What do you think about the power system from Lord of the Mysteries? Many consider Beyonder Pathways to be the perfect power system, but how does it compare to other power systems like Nen from Hunter x Hunter or Stans from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Before we answer all these questions, we need to understand what a power system actually is. A power system, often referred to as a magic system, usually describes the rules, limitations, and abilities that define the magic or power within a story. But I believe power systems are more fascinating than that. They are more than just cool abilities. They shape the world, the people in it, and the story itself. Take bending from Avatar, The Last Airbender. At first glance, it may seem like just a bald kid using elemental attacks, but a deeper look reveals more. The world of Avatar itself adapts to bending. For a simple example, criminal earthbenders are imprisoned in wooden cells so they won't be able to bend their way out, while firebenders are not, due to wood being flammable. Their powers also represent characterization, like Zuko's flames symbolize his rage and anguish. So, creating a perfect power system is not just categorizing abilities, it's the reflection of the powers on the world and its people. Therefore, in this video, I will explain the steps that go into making or breaking a power system, and also go over how you can implement these steps to write the perfect power system for your story. But before getting in, I would truly appreciate it if you left a like on this video. It supports us greatly, and if you choose to subscribe, it will enable us to provide the highest quality content possible for you as much as possible. That being said, let's start our study by analyzing the examples of the most well-liked power systems out there. In this study, we intend to pick out the positives of each power system and prune out the negatives until we have an amalgamation that combines into what we consider the most perfect power system. As I have already mentioned, Beyonder Pathways, Nen, and Stans are definitely the magic systems we will be studying in this video, but there will also be mentions of other anime, manga, and light novels so that our pool of inspiration is as large as possible. Also, don't worry about spoilers. If there are any, I'll give a warning. Returning to the topic, the first 3 steps out of the 5 are actually the fundamentals that make the foundation of our system. Like, I think we can all agree that a power system needs depth. It can't simply consist of a shallow set of abilities. Instead, powers should carry significant meaning for the characters and also the world. Not investing in building depth for your system will lead people who read or watch your story to not care about the power system. A good example of a deep power system would be the Devil Fruits from One Piece. Despite having extremely goofy abilities, Devil Fruits are deceptively deep. They are entirely ingrained into the world and its characters to the point of being cultural phenomena. Take Big Mom from Whole Cake Island. Her Devil Fruit allows her to extract souls and transfer them into objects, turning inanimate material into a sentient being. This transforms the island into a seemingly magical place where labor is performed by animated objects and people enjoy an easy life. However, this luxury comes at a dark price. Every citizen is forced to annually surrender part of their lifespan as a soul tax. This mechanic isn't just cool, it's deeply integrated into the world building. The soul tax system forms a culture that is run on the consumption of lifespan, which ties into Big Mom's need to immigrate people of all races and species to her nation, and also her trait of constantly reproducing offsprings for her benefit, showcasing that she wants more people of all types in her family and nation to use them as fuel and tools, not because of some noble cause. This is a critique of parasitic governments that suck the life out of their subjects while putting a facade of good deeds to hide their true nature. This is how a power system can shape society, reveal themes, and drive storytelling. On the other hand, cursed energy in Jujutsu Kaisen is a shallow example of depth. While I think the power system is great, its complexity is often mistaken for depth, when in reality, cursed energy is mostly hidden from the world, and we rarely see sorcerers outside of Japan. And it's not like you can excuse it because the Jujutsu Society is hidden. Even Lord of the Mysteries has its power system mostly reliant on secret societies. Still, the societies themselves in Lord of Mysteries are infinitely more developed with thousands of years of lore. That aside, our second important fundamental is the trait of a nuanced structure. A nuanced structure allows us to establish proper rules and limitations for our system, which is crucial because we don't want our powers to feel like a mere plot device that does whatever the author wants it to do. Doing so is an easy way to break the viewer's immersion. Ironically, a good example of this is Nen, and also Cursed Energy. The rules they established at the start of the show are mostly followed well throughout the stories, making their fight scenes feel far more engaging. On the other hand, a bad example would be Chakra in the War arc of Naruto. Now, Chakra was a great power system until the Pain arc, but after that, it kind of just turned into Ki from Dragon Ball, like hand signs were mostly left behind, and previously established limits were also broken without a good explanation. Then, we have arguably the most important trait of your perfect power system, the third trait of balance. This trait is often ignored by many, and ends up being the single biggest reason for the failure of power systems. Take excellent and beloved power systems like Nen, Stans, Beyonders, and Devil Fruits, for example. All of them are great in their own ways, but still end up being unbalanced in one way or another, like the specialization category is clearly superior to the other 5 categories in Nen. On the other hand, Beyonders are better balanced in the world of Lord of Mysteries due to the division of sequences in each pathway, more on that later. But despite being relatively better balanced, there are some instances where the author has to make arbitrary rules and limitations out of nowhere for the sake of the plot. Like when Klein is fighting a sequence 4 Black Emperor, his abilities get distorted, but the limit of their distortion is arbitrarily mentioned right when the fight is happening. This isn't a major major issue, but just a random nitpick that stuck with me because it was weird seeing a power system written so consistently get a random, arbitrary rule out of nowhere. So, if even the best power systems cannot avoid the problem of balance, does that mean it's just impossible to solve? Not exactly, because 2 of the 4 power systems I mentioned earlier have actually managed to solve this problem already. The 2, belonging to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and One Piece, like stands, are considered one of the best, yet they're infamous for being hilariously imbalanced. Even One Piece had the same problem in the pre-time skip. If you got lucky with a stand ability or ate a Logia Devil Fruit, you were essentially one of the strongest characters by default without any separate effort on your part. But believe it or not, both of these shows brilliantly fixed their problems just by simply dividing their power systems into 2. Let me explain. One Piece introduced Haki, the ability to manifest willpower as aura and energy. While many people don't like Haki, those who actually know Ball understand how peak it is, especially when it's coupled with devil fruits. Haki has 3 primary roles. It provides character progression, enables non-devil fruit users to compete, and balances the differences among the 3 types of devil fruits. In the pre-time skip, Logia-type devil fruits were typically the strongest due to their intangibility. However, Armament Haki allowed others to negate their intangibility, which not only balanced Logias, but also gave Paramecia and especially Zuin-type devil fruit users a boost in power, which balanced everything. Then there is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. After the universe was reset in Part 6, Part 7 took place in an alternate universe where a power called Spin existed. It arguably synergized with its counterpart power system called Stands, even better than Haki synergized with devil fruits, because the progression of Spin was also directly tied to the progression of Stands, and it also gave the same benefits as Haki, which are to give non-stand users a chance of competing and also to counter stand abilities to an extent, henceforth balancing them. And that's how you do it. Using these 3 fundamentals, you can create a deep power system connected to the world and its characters, and also give it a nuanced structure for consistency, and then divide that structure into 2 so that each half can counter the other to create balance. This is all you need to create a strong foundation for your perfect power system. I believe any power system that has mastered all 3 of these criteria will be great on its own, but as I said, we aren't talking about a great power system, but a perfect one instead. These 3 traits are only the foundation of your perfect power system. To be the best, you have to develop the foundation created by the first 3 criteria beyond the basic, and that's exactly what the next 2 criteria are for. The 4th criterion refers to the progression of your system. This criterion is arguably the most important aspect of a power system, even more than balance, because the very essence of a good story is to develop and progress, and along with the story, your power system needs to develop and progress too. And not just that, but good progression can also be a catalyst for the trait of balance as well. Let me explain with an example that does this excellently. I'm of course talking about the Beyonder Pathways system from Lord of the Mysteries. This power system is considered the best by many, and that too for good reason. But what I consider the best aspect of it is the progression. It's pretty straightforward, yet ingenious. The powers of this world are divided into 22 pathways, and then each pathway is divided into 9 sequences. You can gain the powers of these systems by drinking a sequence 9 potions of any of the 22 pathways, and once you drink it, there is no going back. You are forever stuck in said pathway as a Beyonder, but you can still get stronger by digesting the potion of your current sequence and then drinking the potion of the next sequence in the same pathway. This progression design is brilliant because there is a hard gap between each sequence that lets the reader follow each character's journey step by step. But there is also a gradual, soft gap due to the digestion phenomenon, because the more you digest the potion, the stronger you get within the confines of your sequence. This additionally allows the story to progress naturally without taking big leaps of power. This leads to almost every sequence in any pathway being about equal to each other, hence creating a sense of balance hidden within the progression. It may not be as good a balancer as Haki or Spin, but it's good enough to just work while providing some of the best progression. But another important thing to keep in mind about progression is that it doesn't just need to go in one direction, because that will end up making your power system feel linear and predictable. That's where our final 5th trait comes in: multidimensionality. One of the biggest pitfalls many power systems fall into is that they often become too self-dependent and one-dimensional. While some may disagree with this perspective, I believe that power systems focused solely on one type of power are usually boring and not as engaging as they could be. Now we have a weird example for this one. It's Alchemy from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I personally love its power system for its depth, but its one-dimensional ability comes to a point where the reuse of the same powers starts getting too repetitive. Like, yes, the fights are great, but how often do they just keep creating stone pillars repeatedly? See, now I'm not hating on Alchemy because, as I said, it's a weird example. After all, it's also a good example of multidimensionality, because even though just basic alchemy will soon get pretty stale, different versions and levels of alchemy just add enough sauce to keep the show interesting. This worked out well for Alchemy because Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is just a 64-episode anime. But then, what about longer stories? Series like One Piece and JoJo's use other quirks and gimmicks to fill this spot or introduce entirely different power systems. Like, you already know about Haki and Spin, but there are also other elements elements in the power system of these stories. Like in One Piece, many separate variables can be used for combat, most notable examples being dials, weather tech, great swords, special drugs, and even pacifistas. There are also different species and races with different powers, like merfolk, giants, lunarians, oni, etc. JoJo's also has Hamon, a whole different power system, and it doesn't shy away from using every element at play for its fights. Don't you dare forget the marvels of German technologia. But I think the power system that does multidimensionality the best is Aspects from Shadow Slave. Shadow Slave is a web novel with over 2,000 chapters, and its power system starts off deceptively generic. There is a system called the Nightmare spell that resembles a video game, but we soon discover it is actually quite different. Instead, the characters in Shadow Slave gain their aspect abilities by being sent to another dimension by the Nightmare spell and completing a special trial. But this trial is not the only way to gain powers in this universe. In fact, there is a whole separate system of progression where the Nightmare spell isn't involved, and instead, people gain powers by consuming soul fragments from different mythical creatures and combining them to form cores that give them abilities. Just this dual method of progression reduces the chance of your power system being too predictable. But then Shadow Slave also introduces other variables like divine legacies that create a mini progression system within the greater progression. There are also additional tools, weapons, and support creatures like echoes and memories. On top of that, there is a whole different kind of power called sorcery, where you use the previously mentioned powers and then manipulate them to how you want by bending reality to your will. Not just that, but even the geography of the world itself plays a part in the fights, making the power system and world building interdependent with each other. The best example I can think of for this happens in Volume 9, where the characters are fighting a war under a sun that can evaporate anything that moves under its light. A character in this arc realizes he is weaker than his opponent, so he uses his aspect power to manipulate tools called memories and creates a sorcery ritual, and then channels the power of his will through the ritual to collapse the roof of the structure they were fighting in, and then lets the deadly sunlight from above destroy his opponent. Here, this character uses the power of his aspect, the primary system of Shadow Slave, to manipulate the substitute power system called memories, which are just tools, or in this example, swords. And then using these tools, he creates a sorcery ritual. So far, he has already used 3 different power system facets to create something entirely new and unique. But there is more. He uses the sorcery ritual to destroy the roof of the structure the fight was taking place in. This way, the deadly sunlight falls upon his opponent and evaporates him out of existence. By doing this, he not only used the 3 facets of the power system, but also the geography to his advantage. That's exactly how you do it. Create different yet connected facets of your power systems, which will increase the number of variables in your battles and make the progression feel less predictable and linear. But it is important to properly connect all these facets. Don't just start doing random shi. That would really annoy the readers and viewers. And that's it, the 5 steps to create your own perfect power system. Start by interconnecting the depth of your powers with the world and its characters, like devil fruits in One Piece. Then give nuance to your powers by giving them a structure like Nen. After that, divide your system into 2 and make each half contradict the other for balance, like hockey and spin. When you're done with that, make sure you have a well-defined progression map built for your power system that will dictate the way your characters evolve their abilities, like the sequential pathways of Lord of the Mysteries. And finally, you add multifaceted aspects to your system to make it multidimensional and less predictable, like in Shadow Slave. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe. Peace.